Quite a few times.
50 times?
More.
100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
500 times?
Probably.
Guys, check this out. Absolutely beautiful day. As you can see, I got some sleeves on this morning. It is a very nice 54 degrees out here today. Oh, that cold front's what I've been waiting on for a long time. Absolutely no humidity, just whoo, it feels wonderful. Well, last night the breeze quit blowing and we got a really heavy dew out here this morning. Pretty damp, so we're gonna get things serviced out here, and got Zach catching up on drilling some cover crop before Roy comes out later on today, and we're gonna try and get the rest of this 78 acre farm finished up today and get moved back close to the shop. Get started on the last of our corn. This weather is just awesome.
We're back out here this morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I know I haven't done much recording the past few days, just simply because we've been in such good corn. I haven't had time to stop. The truck has rolled all day, every day, including in the test plots that we did 2 days ago. I think we filled up 3 trucks just in cutting like a 6.5, 7 acre test plot. I haven't had much time to pick up the camera for the simple fact of I've been running like crazy. We're back out here this morning. I'm actually drilling a little bit of cover crop. It's a bunch of cookie cutter fields, moving stuff around, and it's gonna be a little while before we even can fire back up, just to let the dew burn off, get everything serviced. I'm going to knock out this last, I don't know, 15, 16 acres and get everything moved over to the field that we are currently shelling at, and then Roy will come back out, I think 12 o'clock, because it will take him no time to catch back up with us.
Well guys, here we are on the home stretch of corn harvest 21. We got, say it's Thursday today, we got about 130 acres of corn left. Got 40 acres on this farm and then 90 acres that we had to replant back close to the shop. So hope to get this wrapped up the next 3 days. That cold front to come through the other night, we thought we were going to miss the rain, but we wound up getting about 6/10 of an inch early that morning. So knocked us out yesterday, but we had some good strong northerly winds to dry everything back out, allowed us to get started back today. It'll be good to get this corn harvest finished up, but we're not in any big huge hurry because we really don't have anything pressing right now. Soybeans still not quite ready. You know, some of them might be ready in the next week. Might be a little longer than that, just kind of depending on the weather. Once we get done with corn harvest, we'll finish up drilling up our cover crops behind the corn, getting sprayed for pigweeds. Get some of this equipment back home, give it a rough cleaning. We'll go ahead and get my corn head cleaned up good and put away for the winter. Fix a few odds and ends, but that's really about it. It's going to be pretty much waiting game from here on out on what's ready to go. You know, like I said, our soybeans getting close to ready. Y'all been following us all summer. You know the story on our cotton crop. You know, we checked some yesterday, and you know, it's maturing out slowly but surely, but we're still probably at least 2 weeks away from putting out our first shot of defoliant. And then, you know, at least another 2 weeks after that before we even think about picking cotton. So, you know, from here on until about probably later on into October, it's just going to be a hurry up and wait game, waiting on stuff to get ready.
What a beautiful day. The cold front came through, brought some rain, and it took the humidity with it. Isn't that a beaut? What it did not take with is the ragweed. So Matt and I yesterday had off, technically. Got caught up on some things at the house. He did some computer work, cleaned up the shop, and then we went and chopped pigweeds last night. That's how we roll. We have date nights chopping pigweeds. Unfortunately, the field that we were in was extremely high in ragweed, so the two of us are pretty miserable this morning. Yes, we take medication. You really can't do anything until the frost comes through, so pollen's been knocked down, but yeah, it's still pretty bad out here. But we're back at it again today. We've got the rest of this farm to finish. Let's see, there's a bunch, so we'll get it done today. And then yes, our zombie paintball trail starts October 1st. It's every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all in the month of October. It's a lot of fun. We got to do some work to the corn maze still. We are normally defoliating cotton right now, but it looks like we're not even going to touch it with a 10-foot pole until after the 15th of October. We went out and looked at some of the cotton yesterday, and it's not ready. So it's just one of those years where we're going to be spending most of November really busy. But hey, turkey in the field, we'll take it. If anybody wants to cook us Thanksgiving dinner, I'll take a plate, because we'll most likely be in the cotton field. So no, I'm not taking them long to fill up, which is good. That's my spiel for the day. I'll check in later.
So guys, this morning I just want to take a minute and talk to you about something that's become really important to me in the last year. This week, September 19th through the 25th, is known as Farm Safety Week. And I know a lot of y'all started following my channel following the events of exactly a year ago, September 22nd, 2020, when I had an extremely serious combine accident at the end of our corn harvest last year. And truth be told, it was an accident that could have and should have killed me. I should not have survived it, but it was only by the grace of Jesus Christ that I came through with relatively minimal injuries. You know, we were just getting done with corn harvest, and I was in a hurry to move on to the next thing, and I made several critical mistakes that almost cost me my life. And in case you happen to not know the story, we just got done with corn harvest. I was roading the combine back home to the shop to get it swapped over for soybeans, and at that time we had a 6-row corn head, 20 foot wide, and it was the same width as the combine, and there was no need of taking it off going down the road. So you know, every time we transport between fields, we just drove down the road with the head on. We'd been doing it that way for years. And I noticed that morning that the safety latches that hooked the header to the feeder house were not properly adjusted and were not really grabbing the feeder house very securely. The safety latches were engaged, but they needed to be adjusted properly to more securely grab the header. And I didn't give it any thought. I mean, I'd never even come close to having a head come off or anything. You know, the weight of it pretty much holds it in place. And, you know, like I said, I didn't give it a second thought. Another thing I didn't give a second thought to is that I had never, ever in my life, not once in my life, had I ever put on my seatbelt when I was in either, you know, tractor, combine, cotton picker, sprayer. Never once wore my seatbelt. I mean, my thinking was, you know, you're moving at relatively low speeds in a big piece of equipment. You know, there's nothing to be afraid of. Well, I found out how quickly that day how wrong I was. So anyway, it was those two mistakes right there that really led to a sequence of events. As I was going down the road back towards the shop, I was a half a mile away from the shop. Going down the road, I'd gone down thousands of times in my life, both in vehicles and farm equipment. Anyway, I hit a rough patch of the road where a culvert had been replaced. Been over that spot plenty of times. But I hit it at the right speed, the right angle, that it caused my front end to bounce severely. And when that happened, the header bounced out of the cradle on the feeder house because it wasn't securely latched, and then immediately did a nosedive, flipped over backwards. And you look at the structure of a corn head, it makes a perfect ramp when it's inverted. And well, that's what happened. I hit that ramp going 20, 22 miles an hour, you know, full speed ahead, and I immediately got launched out of the seat. You know, I lost control of everything. And when the combine actually landed, you know, it was at least 3 foot off the ground. And when it actually landed, you know, I got thrown around the cab and ultimately got thrown right through here beside the steering wheel and straight through the windshield. I mean, the windshield did not check me up at all, and landed on the ground in front of the combine. And it was only by the hand of God that the combine literally stopped in its tracks and did not run me over and crush me, because I was laying about 10 feet in front of the front drive tires on this combine, and I would have been squashed like a mosquito. Where the heck am I going?
Did you get lost?
Yep, I had a blind moment.
Oh, were you talking to the GoPro and you got lost? I'm loving it.
Go ahead, let's let this be make fun of Matt Day. Anyway, to make a long story short, all the ribs on this side, well, 5 of them at least, got broke. Had a crushed vertebrae in my back, severe abrasions on my back and my head, and a very severe concussion. And I was down for the count for 2 weeks before I could even remotely think about moving around much and getting up on equipment and doing work again. And to this day, you know, exactly 1 year later, I still have concussion symptoms from time to time. I still have severe bouts of dizziness, and you know, it's getting less and less frequent, but it's still something I'm suffering through. Everything else is healed on me. But anyway, the moral of the story is that things could have and should have been a whole lot worse. You know, I should not have come out with that accident with that few of injuries. And in reality, I should have been killed. But the Lord decided it wasn't my time yet. But all of that was the result of some very serious lapses in judgment on my part. You know, I did not pay attention to the details of making sure I was being as safe as possible. I should have properly adjusted the latches on my feeder house. I should have had my seatbelt buckled. You know, in this combine, you know, there's nothing separating you from in here to out there than a real thin pane of glass that breaks very easily, as I found out. You know, you got this whole wide expanse with nothing in front of you except the steering wheel, and it ain't gonna stop you. You know, farming is being classified one of the most dangerous careers in the United States, and you might not think about it being all that dangerous, but it is. The most recent statistics from 2019, I think say 563 farm workers died in farm-related accidents. That's an equivalent rate of 23.1 workers per 1,000 workers that died. And you know, a lot of people think that, well, how dangerous can it be? I mean, you're sitting in a tractor a lot of the days. Well, I mean, there's a lot of other things we do other than sit in a tractor, but there's so many hidden dangers with the equipment that we use that, you know, a lot of times we take our safety for granted. I just want everybody to learn from my mistakes. You know, don't do what I did. Don't learn things the hard way. You know, every situation you're in on the farm, take a look at your surroundings, find out what could possibly hurt you, and think about how it might possibly hurt you. And I guarantee you, even if you do that, you're still not going to identify everything. There's still other things that you can't even imagine that could potentially happen. But try to be as safe as possible. Take every safety precaution. You know, there's no crop out there, there's no job out there that's worth being in a hurry and taking shortcuts. Some of y'all been following me all year long, and I know you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you can take some advice from your own words, because, you know, I've documented where I've been careless in a couple times and not paid attention to stuff that I should have, and I've gotten hurt and could potentially have been hurt a lot more. But the truth of the matter is, I have slowed down a lot and looked at situations before I enter them. I don't always identify everything, and I do miss some things. You know, I'm not perfect, but I do take the time to identify, you know, what potential hazards are out there and try to mitigate them or avoid them if at all possible. So again, if y'all are in the agricultural industry, you got family in the agriculture industry, know people in the agriculture industry, you really try to impress on them the importance of looking and watching and being safe, not cutting corners, and not getting in a hurry. Especially harvest time, we're in a hurry to get our crop out before we lose yield or before we lose quality. You know, got weather coming in. You know, a lot of different stuff that we gotta take into consideration. But harvest time is definitely one of the most dangerous times out there. There's no crop out there. There's no dollar amount that's worth not trying to be as safe as possible. I know that was long, might have been a little rambling, but it's something that's been important to me. I know there's a lot of people that have just started wearing their seatbelts just because of what happened to me. So if what happened to me can save one life, prevent injuries to one person, it's worth it.
So it takes less than 20 minutes to fill up a truck, but it takes about 40 minutes for Zach to go and unload and come back. So 9 out of 10 times, this is what I'm doing. Just waiting. And for everyone that says we need a bigger grain buggy, we don't. Normal years with a slightly above average yield, I'm maybe waiting 10 minutes. This year, all of our corn is far away from the grain site. So, therefore, it takes a while for Zach to go there, dump, and unload and come back safely. When the corn is around the house, it's really easy. I mean, he's usually waiting on us. So, 1, we don't need a bigger grain buggy. 2, we don't need a second truck. We don't grow enough corn to justify that. We do pretty well how we're doing things. But in a year like this year, where our yields are way, way above average, it's a fantastic thing to have to sit and wait. If you are sitting and waiting, that means your yields are way bigger. So that's kind of where that comes into play. But I know I've seen a lot of comments on previous videos about how we need bigger equipment and everything. We have the best equipment that we have for our operation. It's perfect. Because bigger equipment costs way bigger money, and now we like our money to stay in the bank so we can pay for next year. So that's kind of how that goes. I'll bet he's eating lunch. Told him I needed to get some photographs today. I got my camera out. I also have a new lens I want to try out. So I got a really good friend in Wyoming who hooks me up with awesome websites to get rebuilt lenses, because lenses are expensive. If GoPros took really good pictures, then I would probably just use a GoPro. It'd be cheaper. But it's a beautiful day today, so maybe we'll maybe I'll get some good shots in.
just got done over here planting. Fixing to move over here to my mom's house and see just how wet it is. I think it'll be dry enough to go, but after shelling a little bit of it, we might find out that it's just a little too wet. Needs a few more days to dry out. Alright, we just got over here at my mom's house and got started. If you remember back from planting season, this is some ground that I had planned on putting into cotton this year, but then with the run up of corn prices, I decided I need some extra acres of corn, and decided at the last minute after we got done planting the rest of our corn that I wanted to plant this and one other farm into corn. And then we proceeded to plant it, and then weather proceeded to happen, and the crop proceeded to not come up, or at least not come up to a good stand. And then we were forced to choose whether to replant it back into corn, or go to soybeans, or to plant it into cotton as the original plan. Well, I decided at that time, because, you know, we wouldn't get any kind of replant assistance if we had gone to cotton, I decided to roll the dice and replant it into corn at a late date. And at that time, you know, because we're dealing with marginal hill ground and then dealing with extremely late planting, I said at that time we would probably be pretty fortunate to average about 135 bushels an acre on this ground. Ultimately, our yield on this is definitely not going to be what it could have been. I mean, we're now into late May. I've never actually planted corn this late, except for in the corn maze. So, I mean, maximum yield on this type of ground, if everything goes well, I'd say probably 135, 140 bushels. I don't know what it's going to do. This year, seemed like every call that I've made has been the wrong call. Said it's prone to drought, very marginal, thin ground, and then throw in late planting. So, but turns out we had a better growing season than what I would have planned on. So let's make a few rounds out in this field and see if I made the right decision or not to go back with corn on this. Look at there. Now we are in one of the better spots of the field, but still, I'm mighty pleased. Definitely a little bit wetter. Probably going to start a new bin with this, because I don't want to put this wet grain on top of drier grain. So we got another bin we can put in the corn, so that's probably where this will be going. Well, you can definitely tell it was replanted. Here's where I got off on my original rows, leaving a little bit of stragglers of my original planting behind. We didn't spray any kind of burn down or anything to kill the original stand. Because being on RTK, I could plant, you know, within an inch of being my original rows, and corn planter would destroy, you know, what was there of the original stand for the most part. Just had to get down and make a few adjustments to my combine. Got to scratching around, and I wasn't getting as good a threshing as what I need, and leaving a little bit more on the ground. So had to close the concaves up some and speed the rotor up, because this corn is definitely quite a bit wetter than what I've been shelling. You know, what we were shelling was around 18-19%, and this being a month behind the other corn, running about 22.5, 23%. And a lot of y'all probably thinking, well, why don't you just wait a little bit and let it dry down some? I could do that, but this variety right here, 1464, doesn't have the strongest stalk, and it seemed the corn seemed to mature, or the corn stalk seemed to mature and die down really quickly. And I'm worried about standability on this. And also, this farm right here, we've had the most problems with pigweeds out of all the other farms I got. We've had the most problems on this farm. And even though we scouted it and haven't found very many out here this year, I know that there's some out here. And I really want to get this corn off so we can get this farm sprayed with paraquat to kill any pigweeds that are there, hopefully before they produce any seed. And giving this another week to dry down could be the difference between, you know, having a mature pigweed that drops seed in the field or killing it before that happens. And you know, we've been battling pigweeds on this farm really hard for 5 years. Spent a lot of time, a lot of effort doing it. And we've done a good job of cleaning it up, but it's not 100% weed free yet. I just know it's not going to be. So we really don't want to start back on square one on this farm. So we'll put it in the bins and run the fans on it and dry it down. And in case you're wondering, no, we don't have a dryer on our grain bin system. We've never needed one. We've always had success running the fans and using natural air to dry down our corn. It generally costs us about 5 cents a bushel to dry our corn down. However, this year we're putting it in wetter than what we have in the past, so our drying cost per bushel is probably going to be probably 6, maybe 7 cents a bushel if I had to guess this year. We got a monitoring system from Farms on our grain bins, and we got temperature cables and moisture cables hanging down in the bin with sensors at different levels on those cables, so we know the temperature of the grain inside the bin plus the moisture. And it's an automated system. The computer knows the outside ambient temperature, the humidity, and also what the grain is, and the computer can automatically turn the fans on and off on the grain bin to dry the corn down. The computer only runs the fans when the outside air is capable of drying the corn down. So that saves a lot of, that really saves a whole lot of guesswork on us. It saves on electricity costs too. It really makes managing our grain in our grain bins a whole lot easier than what it used to be. How about you, Zach?
Yes, sir.
I think we need to go into bin 1 with this.
10-4.
The green remote doesn't work. It's on brown now.
Oh, great. Looks like I'll be digging the computer back out in the morning. Got electrical problems on that tractor now. One of the hydraulic remotes deciding to quit work. Freaking electronics. Oh. Electronics are great when they work, but when they don't work, makes you wonder why you even go that route.
This remote, the green one, is no longer working. I cannot fold the auger in, so we just swapped over to the brown one, and we'll figure out why the green one isn't working. We've had problems with the green one in the past, and we've had to swap over to the other remotes. So grateful that, you know, this buggy only requires 2 remotes, not 3 or 4, or else we'd kind of be up a creek. So yeah, this is what we're doing.
It's like Dylan Joyce having the same problems we was having a few days ago, just trying to shell some corn in between the rain showers. Ha! Put some more corn on Kelly's cab.
Excuse me, I didn't ask the shower.
Well, I reckon it's going to call it for today. We done about 12 acres on my mom's farm so far. The old monitor's showing about 150 bushels an acre. Originally I said I'd be fortunate if it did 135 bushels an acre, so, you know, looking like this farm could be around the 150 range. I'm pretty tickled with that. Sure could be a lot worse. Anyway, I'm gonna get this combine blowed off, and I'll see you in the morning.